2023, October 8th of 2024, almost a quarter way into the 21st century. Each time having its thing, and each space having its thing, and there's space for everything. Quarter way in means something in his reconsolidation by shifts and epochs. Quarter way into the 21st century is equivalent of a certain rungs up his metaphysical ladder of development. It's more accounting of now exposed availability than it is temporal signatures. Being infatuated with these clippings being extemporaneous, it is ad-libbed and is improvised with the skeleton, with the blueprint of moment-to-moment habitation, ideas habitation. I'm still going to review a page or two of the paper, the document so far, and then riff on something else that been on and around this main subject that this channel is concentrated on, that is guided to disclose, but in different videos speaking at different sections that should overlap and hyperlink and towards conclusion, or where the depositions are large enough that enough of the idea can be, enough of the picture can be transmitted. It will be transmitted at that point when it's enough deposition that the picture is revealed in its sections and in its epiphany. We'll continue with the thought of epiphanies, that it begins with wonder, is in the pursuit of certain displays, is in the pursuit of certain ends, adventures and misadventures of ideas. Acknowledgement of the epiphany, that because it is such a thing, he's only ever witnessed or has resemblance of this contrasting factor, mostly in media, where the image, it can be distilled by the artist, but it exists there through and through, where a frame out is the reality ongoing, but the reality ongoing does not disclose itself in the same way that these mediums of media disclose the same information. He does become instigated, he becomes provoked to the epiphany that he too is a list on his ontology. He's enumerated in his ontology, and that means he has a relationship to himself as he has relationship to other things in his list of ontology, and he should be oriented towards himself as such. And in that way, being able to unpack, to be able to dismantle, to dissect the three-dimensional figure or the agent arena landscape and point of view, and having this relationship to it includes other things that should be squeezed in now that or being the moment suitable, now that it's able to find companionship with the rest of these ideas, and that's orientation to inventing still orientation towards being enumerated into one's ontology, but in this being enumerated into one ontology is an orientation. He's constantly inventing. He's constantly inventing for something, and sometimes are neutral, others are hazardous, and others are perhaps mild, and the others is wise application. Wise action equals wisdom display. Wisdom display is what he's after. Wisdom display in each chain of actual occasions is what he's after. And in this approach, he's titillated, he's incited to install certain modes. He has rehearsal of his speech when he gives off, for example, a piece of his mind. There's rehearsal prior. He's premeditated on the script. He has some trust in it, or he's instantaneously possessed by this spirit, and then he goes on divulging information that in the future retrospective moment he will second guess. He's constantly inventing, and he's constantly inventing to have these displays. In his highest reason, he acknowledges, he confirms that these are the goals for these moments to be around, for these moments to be present in his history, in his blameability, in his responsibility. He's responsible and he's blameable in such and other moments. Well, then it moves from he's inventing what it means for ideas to possess one in certain and different moments. And these two are extemporaneous, and they are being mapped out, at least how they are significant in the moment, how they promulgate, but still being surrounded, but still surrounding the central image. It's read off because and the humans are led to both extremes, be it the cause of the design in first reason's place. He's made to do so. I mean, it's one of the few things that is created by itself and its maker. Yes, judgment attaches itself to all things nameable, invincible, so that he has a way to make a name for himself by the way he nurtures vis-a-vis in relation to his human nature. He's not then a stroller, but can be imagined as such, passive participant, it could be said in other words, but he can be imagined as a passive participant. Non-participant, NPC, the youngster call it, through the world taking to be a museum where he also pushes product, where he's also co-participating, co-creating, yet all the works are from a singular perfection. This is singularity that fragments itself in the diversity of personality that is human avatars, at least can resemble that relationship iridescently, where he also pushes product. Yet all the works are from a singular perfection, and man too is a work that works as a co-creator, as a co-participant, painted outside the relative line and grade to stray farther and farther away from the mechanistic human modality. Animals from the 16th centuries, newly emergent, perhaps to emphasize. Well, it can be done anywhere, with any landscape, merely, even with species that are extinct. The one mode of operation that the species have a very slight very slight, very infrequent burst of creativity. So electric eels from 125 years ago are behaving very similarly to electric eels in the present moment. But 125 years ago, humans' activity is much different than human activity in the present, is what the line is saying. The mechanistic animalistic modality, it's on a track. It continues like automatized figure. In these displays, there is little variation on a track. It does the same thing at the same time at different section. Well, it has something like a very low camshaft, and the camshaft, only because of his sets, well, let's just call them AGTC nucleotides arrangement of camshafts, is able to create different figures, but they're very predictable once the apprehension of them has been grasped, and there's little variation in animals' behavior because they're existent from the forms where more as maintenance. They're not true guardians. They maintain a certain description. They're descriptive participants, as most things are. It's a blanket term, especially now with animal stuff, including most of all life forms. There are descriptions of the forms, the interplay, the world existing, organic, natural world existing between predator prey in the wild, or they're running like camshafts. There's little variation in them, is what the line is saying. Modality. Man, in contrast, is geared to go farther and farther away. These lines hyperlink. It's because he's not geared to this camshaft-like activity. Man is not animal, but in most circumstances where he's been constrained to behave as an animal, to behave as a marionette, as an automaton, as a cog in a machine, he will behave as such. And it doesn't have to be conspired by deleterious intention, but it's a fact of their congregation. You congregate them under these constraints. They become to behave in this manner. It's how they're wired as such. It could be seen advantageously or disadvantageously, depending on what the end products are of this conveyor characteristic. He's geared to go farther and farther away. He's Bush's product. Functionally comparable to few other things of his non-human relatives. His sophisticated but not so considering nature builds on what nature provides, or what was previously provided in his causal chain of history. It seems that psyche variant apparatus capable of cognizing the creative has been superimposed on an appropriate and slightly modified pre-existing animal body type, parable with the brain minding and imposition. Hilarious thought. Here's the hypothesis. In this part of man's problem, he has the mind of an animal. He also has the neocortical apparatus of a higher animal, and he has antiquated dogmatic systems that run his mass operation, his global operation. And in the hypothesis, the statement is the superimposition of this neocortical faculty, and what this faculty brings to the table of conscious awareness, or at least modulating capacity. What it brings there is this portal into universalism. But it's superimposed on animal likeness. And that yes, if man is created in the image of his creator, he's also created in the image of his biological ancestors. And these are the proto-hominids and Australopithecus and Erectus and Neanderthals, but he's rooted further down the evolutionary chain, and he mixes his blood as far down with all the eukaryotic relatives. So man is also of this animalistic, once again, animalistic modality, mechanistic animalistic modality, and this higher higher animal mechanism is superimposed. Well, it battles. That's why there is contradictions in different ends of the mind. That networks are battles that, or in the binding process, what becomes revealed to the agent as is contextualizing in arena is a tug and war, where their motor movements are down to the neural impulses to push them in both opposite direction. Am I thirsty enough to go and drink, or am I hungry enough to go and eat? And he's stuck. But now the relationship is between these different modes of operation. What is his higher thinking, and then what is his other thinkings? Counterproductive? Are they productive? And how can it be characterized once they have been applied, they've been implemented in the exchanges of social or environmental interaction, and what are the consequences of those applications? He's chasing wise actions leading to wisdom display. He's coding, he's factoring for these displays. They are high priority because wisdom displays come with peace of mind, come with increase in almost everything there is to be associated with in life of applications, where one's action is determining mate, one action is determining food, one's action is determining opportunity being seized. It's multifaceted and differentiated, and how different things, how many different things there are for one action application to be addressed to. Sophisticated, but not so, considering nature builds on what nature provides, and it can be retrogressively repacked into its pre-packaging, into its pre-antecedent packaging, how events transpire. And on supposition, at 17 minutes now, not to it is personal, not to break this arbitrary law of timestamp. We'll only entertain a few most collaboration of words before discontinuing the dialogue. If a man does not know of the gift his father has left him, he wouldn't nominate the effort to scavenge for it. It's a fact that there has to be some transmission, receptivity to this transmission, and then acknowledgement of whatever that's under consideration, if it's going to be pursued, if it's not enough to cross the threshold of action potential. There is a similar but separate seriousness in the atmosphere, because this scenario involves his birthright. It involves his birthright. It involves his perpetuity. Is he continuing to initiate his progeny into the current state of cultural affairs, or is he going to mobilize, organize to remedy, ameliorate the situation? There is the two-part question. Is just something to be changed? Yes, no, on or off. Yes, there is something to be changed. What happens if there is something to be changed, and what is the specific category of thing that is under inspection to be changed, renovated, reformulated, reconsidered? With that information, adequate course of actions, application of courses of actions taken to meet this to meet the final state. In the case of ameliorating something, the final state is not the same as in the end of building a house where we have the physical structure. In the case of ameliorating something, it comes with a pick and then a work and then inspection and work. It's on another side of the goal being completed, and how far does it look when the goal is completed. It at least get the conversation started, the community activated, animated, energized, and then still continue the conversation. But it's warranted that it be instated. It's warranted that before going further, before any events can be recorded or be accepted, there has to be that presence. There has to be that present. At least the present is enough of an indication that on the right track, on the right trail. So content involving the questions are vital. The explanation about life and that counteracts the death anxiety, that clears up the existential misconception and naiveties are all as well vital. It involves his birthright. It resolves him philosophizing about this, and this is the rather recommended avenue of contemplation, at least down to the facts as they are happening. Down to the arranging the facts and sitting before them with the objectivism of a babe. Having been there before, these are fresh eyes to continually sterilize oneself from their implicit biases, their fallacies, their penchant or proclivity to perhaps overlook certain fact under confirmation bias and all these other potential pitfalls. Death anxiety is once again, to reintroduce the graph. It lays these same things and explanations down in visual form for those who have a liking to visual formulation, who are interested in visual formulation. There also exists that option, and here in symbolic, explanatory, semi-theoretical formulation, it's then the abstract representation of the diagram, but the diagram also discloses the same fact. In ins and outs that do not overlap, even in your uniqueness. To clear up existential misconceptions or naiveties, if anything is the direction is also to become evident that something has been cleared off, something that wasn't cleared up before has been cleared off, and in its clearing off, one is better off. That something changes about the way they apply their potential as they're constant in their various domains of invention with an event, meaning his continuous presence, participation that causes a first-hand occasion. That meaning even if man is alone, he's isolated, he's still first-hand to an event, a scenario, to an occasion, to an happening. Demanded. It deals with his birthright. These deep questions, these recursive questions, and positive vision of the future and their related topics are indicative of the times. And these are indicative of the times because the secular, materialistic downfall of distraction that is evident in culture is symptomatic of another age. So the counter to that one position, the counterpart to that one position, the opposite of that one position, of that one position, giving human ingenuity, is to also be going on with troubleshooting the age. You understand he's in the age of trouble. He's also troubleshooting. He's also in the age of troubleshooting, age of information, age of all the good stuff that come with the time and come with the topic. Positive vision of the future and their related topics were once unfathomable, and soon temporal elucidation will render satisfactory. That time is what heals all wounds. Even with men interaction, he's co-participating, but as far as his contribution to the participation is partial. Is because he has a very low allowance of allotment of the happening. It's stranger than he can suppose how things actually happen, and it should be clear as he knows more. The more he knows, the more he realizes he knows nothing. That statement also goes along with his development, and that the more he knows, the more he realizes he knows nothing. But he's going through in this ontological faith that he is knowing something and knowing more and more of the right things. Temporal elucidation, time is what heals all wounds. His allowance and allotment is partial, it's minuscule compared to the ratio that allows the enterprise to be sustained in his consciousness, in his energy, in his frequencies, in his meteorology, in his geology, in his life-sustaining properties. Man is not responsible for this work to be done. He's only responsible for modifying the environment and giving names to the plants and animals. Elucidation. That time will be the one that heals these things. What the children are to the adults are to the better nature. Now think collectively, you can see how much opportunity for betterment is left on the table generation after generation. Truth be told, that is in his greatest possible good to actualize the greatest number of people. What he's done to his developed countries, he applies the same principles to his underdeveloped countries, and then he becomes fully developed. It is not his prioritization that is be done immediately, but who are they who are not prioritizing? Who can the actions, the courses of occasions be traced back to, where they are done on the grand environmental scales? Who are responsible for coordinating the workers, the groups, the competent workmen that go on the metalwork, that go on to city construction and reconstruction, renovations and constitution and declarations of independence, and all the other things that are attributable to those who found products and who found services, who maintain these services and such. They are the ones equipped to change the course of actions, and they are the ones that should be traced to these concerns. Well, these concerns to be traced back to be discussed, to be creatively conversed over, and in the hope of traversing where this proposition proposes, there is possibility for relocation, for traversion. Surprised and few set the agenda for billions of people, that it is the majority that makes the rule. The majority makes the rules, once again, partially, almost of this Pareto distribution, that the 10% in the Pareto distribution makes the rule, because it's being generated, power congregates rather, in the hands of fewer and fewer, and it's taken away from, well, not purchasing power, but also purchasing power, and maybe in this hopes to place a price tag over the globe. Once again, almost every opportunity, this fellow has to make an appearance, because appearing initially had no monetary wealth, but through dispersal and societies forming, through dispersal and society forming, he's able to create a monetary system that places price tags on portions of Pangea, and he now has enough of these price tags to consolidate a rough estimate of what it would cost to own a planet 3 planets away from the sun, and in this way to really gain a certain type of recognition that is socially constructed. Current things have to fall apart to make way for better things, but really to make way for different things. It's the brain, an artifact of evolution that is liable for the conception and equipped to refer to itself. Refer to itself also meaning that it's enumerated on this list of ontology. It refers to itself, and that's a certain special relationship, and it's evident nowhere else in the animal kingdom. Well, it's not evident to be available anywhere else in the animal kingdom other than within the higher animals. It refers to itself. Speaking of reality realizing itself in itself, yes, cliche. All attempts to give a full account of the narrative as an understatement to the whole happening. The narrative moves down to the subpersonal, well, the global narrative moves down to the level of subpersonal rehearsal of a narrative. And when man thinks and rehearses thoughts, when he's expected to officiate provocation with a contender or a person who has stepped on his toes, he rehearses what he thinks, and after these occasions he has staircase wit. Instead he thinks, oh, this should have been said. Instead, he's continuously rehearsing these moments because he's hoping for these displays of narrative. He's arranging for these displays of narrative, but he's not differentiating what arrangement should be made for what precise what particular narrative. That there are certain narratives that he's culturally predisposed to and that he factors for, but in other cases when he rethinks and reevaluates the system and step out of the system to re-examine it as babes, in fact, he then takes another look on these facts, on these allotments, and he now arranges for a different narrative. Now what itself can be characterized as wisdom display, where it's not socially given that this is a wise display. A single wrong person can find another person that agrees with them. It's parasitical. And it's endemic how faulty or deleterious memes have the chance or have the opportunity to permeate through humans socializations, communities, how it gains the opportunity, more importantly, in thinking on that fact, and meaning that emotionally, presently, that there are ideas that are not in man's best interest, but yet still have the opportunity to do upon him or masquerade as being in his interest, and man codes and factors for these arrangements of narrative. And speaking still temporal resolutions, as these are hyperlinked, refers to itself, realizing itself. How it truly went down in its intricacies, how can one follow the money well enough as they're tracing the steps? It's intricate, no one can say, but with responsible reasoning, one can make do of the knowledge of now to retrogress and extrapolate into the hereafter. Retrogress meaning being an archivist, or taking on outfit of an archivist, also extrapolating to be a future fetcher, in that way bringing things from the future that was thrown there from time equals zero, before time equals zero, and bringing them into the present. In that case, now using, I should say, responsible reasoning to make do of the knowledge of the now. Well, still in this case, consonants choose the forms that follow function or purpose at 35.